everyone. Welcome back to another episode of The Shade of It All.
The shade of it all. Hello, everyone.
We're your host, Brandon.
And Magdala.
I almost called myself Maggie. I almost said, we're your host, Maggie, and I was like, that's
That's so
not
funny.
me.
That is
Uh,
not you.
I'm not her.
Uh,
How you doing, Maggie? How's your day been?
Today was busy, but honestly, it was nice. Usually, we record on the weekends. Usually, the weekend is just like chill, stay home, take a nap, get ready for the week. But
Mhm.
I went to the Strawberry Festival today, which
Oh,
is funny
yes.
because this morning Brandon and I went to F45
At 45.
and we did a resistance training workout, and then we did a stretch workout. And after stretch, the leader of the coach who was doing the stretch workout was like, does anyone have plans today? And I'm like, oh, I'm thinking of going to the Strawberry Festival. And this girl was like, this is the year that has had the most traffic at the Strawberry Festival, and it's taken people an hour and a half just to get inside. Oh, and it's the worst in Strawberry Festival history. And I was just like, maybe I won't go to the Strawberry Festival.
She was
So
so intense. She's like, it's the worst it's been in 50 years. I'm like, the
you,
Strawberry Festival been around that long? I haven't been
literally,
I haven't been once.
and I'm like, where'd you get your stats from? Like,
I just looked it up on Yahoo News.
and it's also funny because I don't know who this person is. I've never heard them speak before in my life.
No,
And
I've
she's
never
just
seen them.
abruptly, I've never seen her before. I think she's a plant. Brandon,
Oh
I
my
think she's
gosh,
a
she's
plant
Amber.
that
She's
tried to ruin my
Amber.
weekend.
She did.
It's-
Did that instantly put you in a bad mood when she said it?
it didn't put me in a bad mood, but it made me feel rushed. Like, oh gosh,
I
we gotta
knew
go.
I sensed an energy shift in Maggie at the end of the class where she just like, because sometimes
Not
we
an
talk a
energy.
little bit and then sometimes we'll get food or not. And then
No,
Maggie was
I left immediately.
She was like, well, Brandon, I'll be able to record at 5. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
That
Usually
is
we like gab,
funny.
we'll talk after class. I was like, bye. And then I
I
come
have to beat
home
this
and
traffic.
no, for real. And then the time changed. So like we lost an hour. So I know my body's probably feeling it. And then I come home and I'm like, Obi, we gotta go. It's the worst traffic in years. And he just looked at me and he's like, mm-mm, that's not how I work. I'm starting my day. If we're gonna go, we're gonna go, but you can't rush me. And I'm like, all right. So
Fine,
I just
fine.
resolved that it would be terrible, and it was literally fine. Like it took us, and I mean, we're an hour away from the Strawberry Festival. It took us an hour to get there. Maybe there was like 15 minutes of finding parking and then like 15 minutes of waiting in line to get inside, but it really wasn't that bad. So
Yeah,
she played me, and
she
I
did.
won. I won a Squirtle.
Oh my God. Damn, that's fucking big.
Isn't it?
Look
It's
at
very big.
that.
If you're virtual, if you're not like watching on YouTube, Squirtle is like we have this. His head is bigger than mine. Like he's pretty big.
How did you win it?
So, carnival games. So I was like, Obi, I want to play games. Obi, I want you to win me a prize. And so we go around and we saw this game, and there were six balls and there were numbered slots. And the game was that you had to get either the six balls to go into the numbers that add up to 10 or numbers that add up to 31. And so
Okay.
we wasted a lot of money on that game. And I was like, damn, because they had this humongous panda, and I love pandas. Brendan, this panda was so big that I do not know where I would put it. Like, if it's bigger than like my couch, like I don't know where. And so I kept telling him, like, I don't know where it would go, but I want the panda.
We have
So
to
I
get
couldn't
it.
get the panda. Yeah. But they also had Squirtles there. And so I was like, oh, Squirtle's super cute too. And so when we lost, after trying, like he tried twice, I tried twice. Then we went over and they had the game where you just spray water to pop a
Mm-hmm.
balloon. You spray
Yeah.
water and it's like a race, whoever wins, whatever.
Yeah.
And so both Obi and I played. So I was like, all right, we got a 50 chance. Two other people were on the other side. And so I spray the water and my balloon flies off. It doesn't pop, it flies off. And I was like, it was me. I
That was me.
won.
That was mine.
I was like yelling, and the lady running the stand look a little confused, and I was like, "Ma'am, I mean, I think I won by default. The balloon's not supposed to fly off, but anyway, I was like, I
You're
want
just so
Squirtle, and that's how I
strong.
got
You
Squirtle. I
didn't
know,
like
right?
pop it. It had to like fly away.
I changed the dynamics of the game.
They're rewriting the rules as we speak.
Literally.
Did you like Pokemon growing up?
Yeah, I'd say so. I didn't dislike it. My brothers were the major fans, but all of
Oh.
the characters are super cute. While we were going inside, someone had a fully evolved Charizard, and I was like, "Oh my
Oh.
gosh, Obi, that's Charizard!" So Panda, Squirtle, I'm content. I would have liked it if they had like an Appa, for Avatar, because I'm a fan of that too. But
There
beggars
were
can't be choosers.
there was
Squirtle
no
was here.
Avatar
No, there
toys.
was not.
That's
And Squirtle is
unfortunate.
like surprisingly light. Like I think he weighs maybe 2 pounds. Like he's so light.
He looks like he's
I
just
think it's
a
made of
lot
styrofoam.
thicker and taller than I would have expected. It's like taking
Like
up the
he's
whole
bigger than a
screen.
small baby. He's probably the same size as a small baby.
Bigger than a small baby. Well, I'm glad you had a
So
good
that was my
time. That
day.
sounds like a
I
lot of fun.
did. How are you, Brandon?
Well, I'm just like busy being busy and like doing things. No, I was exhausted after our class today
It
because
was a
it
lot.
it was good. I had a good time. I didn't feel like dying. But then we did
Hmm.
the recovery stretch, and that was a lot more difficult than expected. There was a lot of
Yeah.
squats incorporated. I did not do them. I was like, my
Hmm.
thighs are tight and they're not feeling right. Okay. So
Hmm.
I need to
Hmm.
stretch. Um,
Yes.
but so I got home and I just relaxed. I had some coffee because I try not to drink coffee before class just because I don't wake up early enough and I'm like, I just don't want to like feel sick potentially.
Yeah.
So I just usually try to drink water. So I had coffee, but then I got tired and I almost fell asleep, but I didn't because I had to finish my book for my book
Oh,
club podcast I host with friend of the
literary
pod, Katie,
podcasts.
at the Literary
Hmm.
Latte Podcast. Like and subscribe. Thanks so
Hmm.
much. But we were reading this book, Normal People by Sally
Hmm.
Rooney, which is also a Hulu show. It was the most depressing book I
Oh
think
my
I've ever
gosh.
read. It was just
Wow.
like it was just like a sad story about like these two people who like fell in love with each other but had like their own issues and were like depressed and just could never like really find a way to be together. But then it was just like all this like traumatic stuff would happen and I'm like, what the
This does not sound like an enjoyable time.
I knew it would be a little sad when I picked it, but I didn't realize how sad it would
I
be.
didn't realize it was depressing.
Yeah, I thought it would pick up at some point because I'm all for
Yeah.
like sad and then it picks up. But
Yeah.
this didn't pick up. So, and it ended like on such like a random note that it's like, wait, that's the ending? And it just made me upset.
Ain't no way, boy. Oh, so you finished it today?
I did because I only had like
Okay.
40 pages left after. And then I
Okay.
recorded the pod with Katie just a little earlier today.
Oh, okay.
So it was good. It worked out. But yeah,
Hmm.
that's what I've been up to today.
Well, I'm sorry the book was depressing, but I'm glad that you're not depressed.
Well, it's okay. I'm all for a slightly depressing book, but again, it's got to have like, I don't know, like some ups. And this one just
Yeah.
didn't have any. Like it
It
would
was just
kind of, but not
downs.
really. I was just like, what is happening?
Well, I don't think that this is a recommendation to read normal people.
Right. And the only reason I picked it was because people on like TikTok, like book
We're
talk,
saying,
they were like, oh my God, Normal People.
uh,
It's amazing. Or it's one of their favorite books. And I'm like,
mm,
okay. And it was a little shorter. And I've been wanting to read a shorter book. So I was
yeah.
like, okay, let's read this. Like, this is going to be great. And then I was just like, I'm depressed.
I don't know if
So
you're the audience for that book. I don't know if you're the target audience.
I don't know. But I would consider watching the Netflix, or not the Netflix, the Hulu show. But I don't know
Hmm.
if I want to now.
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe we should watch it, but let's watch the preview and see. Maybe that will
Watch a
be our
little
next show.
trailer, get a vibe
Since
for
Love is
it.
Blind is almost over. Yeah.
It is. And
So we
y'all,
gotta talk about
we're gonna be
today.
getting
I
into the
mean,
weddings.
yeah,
Ooh.
and it was kind of depressing. So we got
You
some
know
stuff
what?
to.
You're right.
It was a little sad.
It was. I will say, just harkening back to your point about daylight savings,
Harkening back.
harkening back to this point you made earlier, Maggie, I'd like to
Jumping
say,
back.
jumping back, if we could just pivot back, I
As we move forward,
I didn't
looking
realize,
back.
looking back at what you said, I didn't realize that it was gonna be daylight savings going into today.
Oh,
But
really?
it makes sense because when I woke up, I felt really tired. Like I didn't sleep
Yeah.
enough. I fell asleep like not too late last night.
Yeah.
And like, but I still woke up like, why do I feel so tired still? And then when I
Honestly, I felt the
saw,
same way. Yeah.
yeah, like at the beginning of class, there was this guy in our class that kept like being like, woo, yeah, like trying to pump it up, but it was just like one
Yeah.
guy in our class, and it was the guy right in front of us. And I
Yeah,
wanted
he
to be
was.
like, sir, don't,
Please.
don't
Please.
do this.
I give a woo when I'm like, damn, this is a lot.
You
But
do.
he was just
I do
like
too.
clapping. He was
Y-
clapping, and I was like,
It was too much. I was like, I'm
by
too tired
himself.
for this. I need to just focus.
I think he's part of the 6 a.m. crew. There's a group of people, there's a cult at our F45
Oh,
of people who consistently go at 6 a.m. together. So much so that the 6 a.m. class is always full. And they're like, whenever I hear about the 6 a.m.ers, they're like, they're a different bribe, they're a different breed. So I think he's one of them because nobody was clapping with him. They're like, we're just trying to get through the workout, sir.
we're
But I
nine
agree. I
o'clock
woke
and
up
I
feeling tired.
barely woke up. So
Did you have an alarm set?
I set three, but
Damn!
I do that all the time.
3 alarms, Brandon? Did you
I
wake up by the first one?
I mean, yeah, but then I fall back asleep. I like it because it's like
Yeah.
gradual and it's like,
Well, yeah.
it's only 7 o'clock. I can sleep a little longer. I currently
Right.
have like five for like the work day. Let me see.
That's so
But I need to
funny.
stop because it actually now it's too much and it puts me in a bad mood. But
Oh my gosh, 6 a.m., 6:15, 6. What time do you have to leave? So the
but
ideal time to get up is, oh my gosh, Brandon, that's more than five. There's
But
10 of
some is
them.
set, like some of these I have set for every day, whereas others they're just like if I for that specific day, I'll just click it real quick because it's not
Oh,
always
I get
on.
it. I get it.
So
I
it
get
kind of
it.
has a little bit more. But well ideally I get to work by 9. I like the thing with me, I wake up and I like to be awake for a little bit before I get out of bed. I can't just
Yeah.
jump out of bed. And
Yeah.
usually I like to have coffee as well, but that would involve me waking up even earlier, and there's just no time
Hmm.
for that. My favorite
Hmm.
is working from home because you
Yes.
wake up, you go, you log in, like, oh my God, yeah, I'm online, and then you
Yeah,
go
I'm
back
here.
to the bed and then you drink your coffee. But it is what it is. Before we dive into Love is Blind and get into those weddings, I did want to just talk briefly about Ariana Grande, pop princess Ariana Grande, just released her new album, Eternal Sunshine. And, funny story, I filmed a reaction video for my YouTube channel and then the video got messed up, so I had to delete it. So that was
Damn.
fine. But
Oh, I'm
honestly, I was
sorry,
in the
Brandon.
bad mood the whole video because I did it late because I was like trying to do it at
Oh.
midnight. I don't know, it was dumb. But it's fine. But I didn't like it when I first listened to it. But then as I listened to the album more, I really like it a lot. I
Hmm.
think it's like really good. Did you listen to it at all, Maggie?
I did. I dabbled. I dabbled.
Oh,
I first thought though, and maybe I'm just used to hearing her live. Is that what she usually sounds like recorded? Because it didn't sound like her.
like high pitched.
It sounded high pitched. It didn't have any of like her soul. It was very much like not Ariana
I
Grande.
think she did go a little bit higher because she performed on SNL and
Hmm.
she was lower pitched and it was more
Interesting.
soulful.
Okay.
So
And
I
then
guess it
I
was the
was
stylistic choice.
okay. And then the album cover kind of confused me. I feel like I noticed everything but the music. I noticed how all of the songs, all of their titles are lowercase.
She does that a lot.
So I was like, okay, that's cute. And then yeah, the art confused me because it's called Eternal Sunshine and it looks like um
The
two
The the
Twins? I
ponytails. It gives me
Yeah. And
like
then I'm
the
like, whose head is that? That's not your head. That's not your hair color.
well, she's
Is
blonde
it?
now.
Oh my gosh. She's just changing up everything.
She's blonde now because she's Glinda in Wicked.
Oh boy. I'm interested to see how that's gonna come out. I really want to watch Wicked. I don't know. People are like, ew, Ariana Grande's in it. And I'm like, she's not gonna be in it for long. She's not the star. So
I mean, she's gonna sound good. She's gonna sing. And you
yeah.
know what? I think it should be good. The album cover did give me like haunted,
Yeah.
like those twins or the sisters, like at the end of the
Yeah.
hallway. And I
Yes.
was like, oh. But I kind of
That's
liked
different.
it still. But she has a bunch of different album covers she did with like red gloves and like
Yeah,
other
I'm
things as
looking. I
well.
see them on here.
But
Spotify is like showing me all of it.
I liked a lot of the songs. Really, none are bad. But the ones I did add to my liked were the intro, End of the
Hmm.
World, because I just thought it was pretty, even though it was short. I Wish I Hated You. I love a sad song. We Can't Be Friends, Wait for Your Love, which she did that music video with Evan Peters, which was really good. And then True Story, Supernatural, and Bye. Those were my faves. But I like them all.
That's like half the
I
album.
know, right?
So Brandon liked it.
I like the album. I didn't at first when I first listened, but then as I listen more, I'm like, it's growing on me. I like this.
Yeah, I was telling Brandon the other day, I have to listen to things more than once. Usually I don't like things the first time I listen to them, but then I'll hear a song in a movie or something, and then I'll rediscover the person and be like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. That happened with Chance the Rapper. Like I listened to his album the first time and I was like, ooh, I don't like this. Same with
Yeah.
Solange's album, A Seat at the Table. I didn't like it at first. And then I had to like listen to it again and I was obsessed. So
Hmm.
give me time. Ask me next week how I feel about Miss Grande.
We'll
Miss
revisit
Grande, Homewrecker Grande.
Miss Grande. Well, that's the thing too, because I thought the music it's such like a cool sound, and I
Yeah.
feel like it's just like very, there's like about love and it's kind of sexy and all that. And then I'm just like, this is about SpongeBob.
This is about this man that you like.
This is about like
Who
that
knows? Who knows who it's
on
about?
Broadway.
Because
Like, what? Really? All this? You wrote a song called The Boy Is Mine because of SpongeBob? I'm like,
supposedly, let's see. It could be about somebody else's man. We'll
no,
find out soon enough.
no one's safe. No, maybe honestly, you know what? Go off, Ariana. But
Right.
we can revisit again as well to see
Okay.
Maggie's full opinion of it next week.
That reminded me of AD talking to Sarah Ann. And Sarah Ann was like, well, what do you care? She's like, I don't care. You're not fucking my
Us to Ariana Grande's album. I don't care.
man.
She's not fucking my man.
Exactly.
Uh, but
Uh,
speaking of AD.
Love is blind,
Love is
man. Do you
Blind,
want to
the
start with
wedding.
AD and Clay? Do you want to start with Jimmy and Chelsea? Do you want to start with Johnny and Amy just to get it out of the way? What are we doing?
Honestly, let's start with Johnny and Amy. They got married.
Get it out of the way. They got married and it
They
was
got married.
beautiful.
It was
Dad
great.
had several soliloquies that were very like I kind of shed a tear a little bit. I was like, wow, Amy's dad loves her so much. Yeah, they had a beautiful wedding and a beautiful like ceremony. Her dad was very touched by it all. I loved that his sister was on her bridal party and was backstage with, not backstage, but getting ready in
Backstage.
her bridal suite with her. I thought that was really cute
Yeah.
how she was like, like they were like welcoming her into the family and they were all just like teary-eyed and just full of love. Didn't hear Johnny's, I don't think Johnny's parents really said anything other than go get him, Tiger. Like they had a few words with him, but
They did. But
they got
then
married.
they got
Yeah,
married.
it was
Yay.
great. It was great. They're doing great. And if they're not together, I will be very concerned if they aren't together, but they seem to just be conquering the world together and happy.
Yeah, I would be surprised if they aren't, especially considering it looks like Sarah Ann and Jeremy with an A are together.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
and that's surprising too.
that's
Um,
yeah,
but there's really nothing else to say about them.
there's nothing.
Any thoughts, any highlights from their time together?
I guess love is blind.
Right.
Um, let's go up to Jimmy and
You know
Chelsea.
what? Actually, this is funny. So Johnny and Jimmy both said the same thing. Johnny goes, I knew if I put myself 100% committed myself 100% to the process, I would come out with love and my wife, and here we are. And Jimmy was like, I committed 100% to the process, and I don't want you. So I thought it was
Jimmy
funny.
is an interesting one. I'm like,
Yeah.
so last week's episode ended in that like cliffhanger where it
Cliffhanger.
was like,
It's I
oh,
love Yeah, I love how we thought it was BS and it was like, wait, nope.
well, it kind of
I
was
thought
because
it
it made
was.
it seem like what's Chelsea gonna say and like all
Oh, that's
that.
true.
But then
Yeah.
Chelsea was like, of course I want to marry you. Like, yes, of course.
Yeah.
And then he's all like, yeah, like you're like the best thing ever and like you're everything I would want a wife to be and like all this. So like, would you want to like see yourself
Mm,
down the altar with me? And she's like, yeah, of course. Like, I love you. I feel like we've been
yeah.
through so much. And it's just like, it's something that's like great that I would want
I
to
mean,
do.
she admitted that they'd been through challenges, but she was ready to face them with him.
Yeah. And then he goes, well, I don't see myself going to the altar. And it's like, what? You just said she was
Yeah,
the perfect wife. How are you going to set her
literally.
up like this? And then
He
be
hyped
like,
her up to
just
let her down.
kidding.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like he was tailoring it that way because what he was saying was no to getting married at that point. He was like, I see a future with you. I just don't want to get married today. And that was this big hiccup. So two
But
weeks ago, oh, go ahead, go ahead.
no, I was just going to say, but that's very Jimmy to communicate that in the worst way.
It is. It is. A lot of these things are very classic Jimmy.
Very classic
So
Jimmy.
2 weeks ago they had this big argument where Chelsea got upset because he went out for an hour and a half, and then it escalated to really her being feeling insecure about his friendship with a close friend of his who he has slept with in the past. And she threw it in his face, said it on camera. He asked her respectfully, do not say this on camera. He said this off camera, don't tell people. And she decided to tell the world. And so he
She
was
did.
like, up until 2 weeks ago, I was feeling really great. But after that, it really set me back. It makes me feel like I can't trust you, et cetera, et cetera. Because of these things, I don't want to go down the aisle. And so Chelsea doesn't take it well. She doesn't really take anything well.
She, no, she did breathe. She was
She
like,
did. She was being calm for a second. And I was like, did you talk to someone, Chelsea? Because at first she's like, so what you're saying is, and I was like, not her asking for clarity, because usually it's from 0 to 100 with her.
but she was like, why did you even propose to me? I just feel like you never were even trying. And I was just like, this just goes
Girl.
back to my other thing where it
Mm-hmm.
was like, I think she could sense he wasn't into her and he was trying to be into her. And then they kind of grew to like he grew to like her. But
Mm-hmm.
then it's just like too much happened. They fought too
Yeah.
much. He's terrible with communication. She's a terrible arguer. It's just
Terrible.
bad.
It's bad. I mean, I disagree with you. If you all look back to we really went through this back and forth like two podcast episodes ago.
Yes.
We Brandon believes that Jimmy really didn't really like her and she could sense it. I disagree. I actually think Jimmy was giving it his best and trying, but Chelsea would nitpick everything he did to the point where it's just insufferable, Like I actually think he was giving it his best foot
You're
forward.
insufferable.
She literally is. Like she would critique everything. How you say you love me is not enough. You went out for an hour and a half. Like she is so overly critical. It's insufferable. And honestly, this argument kind of shows it very well. He's like, hey, I don't think I can move forward in this way. And she automatically jumps to, well, like, oh, well, you never liked me. It's like, girl, why do you live in absolutes?
Yeah, that part I was like when she was like, "Why did you propose?" And I'm like, Okay, but
That was like
like
a month ago.
that was like forever ago. Like I don't like I disagree. I'm like clear like that doesn't whatever. But my thing with Jimmy and where I did understand what she was saying was where she was like, why did we have all this day, like this fun day, like doing all these
Yeah.
things? Why didn't you just do this earlier? To which I agree, because I thought
Yeah.
he should have, like when they sat down on those couches and he
Hmm.
broke up, he should have just stuck with that
He
and
should
left
have.
it and it would have been fine. But instead he decided to like try again. And then he has like
Hmm.
this big day and like where they're getting along better than ever. We even both said we're like, wow, it seems like they actually like each other. Look
Yeah,
at them.
I was kind of convinced that they were gonna get married because they just kind of worked through their issues, but guess not.
Yeah. No. And
Well,
then he just like breaks up with her and he's like, I have to say when I feel it. And I'm like, you're telling
yeah.
me you were not feeling this before today. Like,
Yeah,
shut
like
up, Jimmy. Be real. Be real. Be real.
For real, like you were referencing something that happened 2 weeks ago, so you've been feeling like this for a while, which is very classic Jimmy because Jessica told him the same thing in the pods. I feel like you knew before today that you really did love Chelsea, and he's like, "No, I felt it in the moment," and I told her, and it's like,
I don't know about that, Jimmy.
I don't know about that, Jimmy, but like I agree. I kind of faulted Jimmy there. I think he was wrong for waiting so long. Like, why are you guys like going into all of this in-depth wedding planning if you're not like gonna say yes, you know? Like
Yeah.
they were doing their ice sculpture thing. I guess they made the ice sculpture to like have at the reception and stuff.
No,
They
yeah.
didn't. I'm like, that's a waste of time. I wouldn't spend any coins. I'm pretty sure production is paying for everything, but
Well,
I
yeah.
also wonder if stuff happened behind the scenes and production was like, "Hey, Jimmy, contractually you have to go down the aisle, but this is your moment if you want to say no to say no." So we don't know all because I know that like stuff happens and like if they're given an out, because I think that by their contract, if they don't go down the aisle, they owe the production company money. But some
Oh,
people are given an opportunity to say no, you know?
that's wild. I,
Yeah, which is
I,
crazy because it's like, isn't it a wedding more money than,
right? I'm
you
like,
know?
y'all are this rich production company. I'm joining this show. Like, what do you mean? I did laugh though when he's like, you told my deepest, darkest secret. And she just goes, your deepest, darkest secret is you fucked your friend, really?
Like that, this is one thing
I
that I
died
really
though, because like it's
don't like
kind of
about
funny.
it is hilarious. Like, but also it's like, girl, do you hear yourself? Like, Chelsea is a walking contradiction. First, it's like she basically said, like, oh, in this argument, because he basically says, like, hey, I don't think I can move forward with you. And she's like, why? Because we had one argument. And he's like, it hasn't been one
Yeah, that part
argument.
was
I'm like,
crazy. I was like, okay, Chelsea. Chelsea.
because
Chelsea.
her saying, "Oh, well, why did you propose to me anyway?" I'm like, "Girl, you think between proposal and today, nothing has happened to sway his opinion
Right?
of
He
you.
proposed to you
What's wrong
before
with
the
you?"
arguments,
Literally,
before
literally,
he
like
even saw you.
exactly. Like she has no self-awareness. She's like, so because we got into one fight, he names the fights. And then she goes, so one argument. I'm like, girl, she just told you it's been more than one, Chelsea. Please. Like, look at yourself a little bit. And then she goes, oh, well, I feel like I have to walk around eggshells around you. Every time I try to tell you like something that's upsetting me, you don't listen. And I was like, sounds familiar. Because
Hmm.
when Jimmy tells you stuff, you literally don't consider it at all. You throw it in his face. Oh, I told your deepest, darkest secret. Like, how patronizing can you be? Like, she has zero self awareness. And I'm just like, girl, come on. You can't pretend everything's been amazing. She just wants to
No.
invalidate all of his reasons. And it's like he has legitimate reasons, girl. Just accept it. He's not breaking up with you. He's saying, I don't want to go down the altar today, but I do see a future with you. And this conversation could have been a lot better.
It could have. I think she could have handled better, but also he could have approached it better and been like,
Way better.
hey, I love
Yeah.
you. I want to work on it. But I do think what's best for us is if
Yeah.
we don't. Not, oh my
Right.
gosh, you're perfect. I don't want to go down the altar. I
Ugh.
don't want
You I see you as the future mother of my children. It's so funny. Usually people plan elaborate dates for like big news. And
That
Jimmy
was some
did.
news. He did.
But it was some really like not positive news. I was like, y'all have the whole theme park book out. You're the only two people on this big ass roller coaster. Like, they're the
He's like,
only two people.
woo!
They're having the best time ever. Those cheeseburger sliders look good. They didn't get to
He
eat.
did.
She was like, I'm walking away. So
They
she
did
gets
say
ups.
on some interview though that like apparently a lot of the good times wasn't shown. Like
Oh, I'm
both of
sure.
them.
Two
And
weeks
I'm
had
like,
passed, and it was like one episode for us.
yeah, I'm
I
sure you
only
got
saw one
along,
episode
but like,
apiece. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, but it was enough for him to be like, hey, I don't want this. And it's like, yeah, you should really vocalize red flags up front, be more transparent with somebody. But also, it doesn't seem like they do a good job. Well, I think Jimmy listens to her. I don't think she does a good job of listening to him. Because she's like, you called me clingy, as if like you weren't being clingy, sis. Like, come on. But I
That's
don't think they ever
true.
really talk through it. And I think that's the issue with Jimmy is he doesn't really address conflict.
He's
Like, you could have
conflict
sat her
avoidant.
down. He is. He could have sat her down and been like, Chelsea, you're nitpicking everything I do. You're making me feel like I can't speak or be myself. Like, say something to explain to her why you're feeling like she's clingy. You say it once and you just want her to understand. You know what I mean? Like, I don't
Yeah.
think he's great at I don't know if he's emotionally intelligent enough to like articulate his feelings in that way. But granted, she does cry every time he opens his mouth. So I don't know if she's the easiest person to talk to.
They're both just not very emotionally intelligent. They just express it in different ways. She's very
Yeah.
annoying. He's very
Yeah.
passive.
Yep.
Annoyingly passive should be their couple name. Um, I hope they're not back together.
I don't know. I actually feel like if they sat back and really talked through I feel like their issues are fixable. If Chelsea kind of took a look at herself a little bit, worked through some of her insecurities, I do think that she would be able to like be with Jimmy. And if Jimmy could like kind of in nicer ways explain, his hiccups, his concerns. I actually think that they could be fine because they do get along. They do seem to like each other very much.
Yeah.
But I don't think they're together. I saw a couple things on TikTok, so I don't know. I don't think they're together.
Thank God. You know,
Yeah.
they're a mess. And,
Yeah.
I can't wait for the reunion just to see, because I do hope Chelsea has done some self-reflection and work
I
on
hope so
herself.
too. I'm feeling like she hasn't, but I hope so too.
I'm
I
leaning
saw
towards no,
no.
but
I
maybe.
saw a couple of things on TikTok that concerned me. So the first thing on TikTok was some people spotted Jimmy at a club. I don't think that's that deep,
Hmm.
but he was at a club like not with Chelsea. So I don't know if that's really a hint or not. And then Chelsea essentially made a video kind of explaining like, I just felt like a lot of my feelings weren't considered and blah blah blah. And it just seemed like she's on the same train that she is right now, that like these are the things I feel and they should be considered instead of like doing some self-awareness.
It's
And
like,
then
okay,
she's
Chelsea, but when are you going to consider other people's feelings?
exactly like maybe the person you're with who you're critiquing all the time. You can't
Yeah.
say I love you well enough, girl, bye. You're you lost me at you did the way you say I love you, girl. No, ain't no way. And then she made a TikTok and pretty much was saying something like, imagine all of your insecurities resurfacing at one time. And she said something like she had done a lot of work on herself and like all her insecurities came out. And I'm just like, I really don't know why though. Like, if you're doing internal work, especially on your insecurities, you have to have some kind of like internal like alarm like, is this me or is this the situation? I think as soon as
Yeah.
she saw Jessica, she became insecure. It had nothing to do with Jimmy.
Yeah. I don't know. It's probably tough being on the show. And I'm sure when you're like not only living it, but then when you get asked questions constantly, I feel like that's kind of what I've seen from like other people on other shows. It's when they have to like relive stuff and like answer the questions, it brings it back
Yeah.
up. Sometimes it can
Yeah.
heighten emotions. Sometimes it can make you self-reflect and realize things. It really just depends.
It does, but it's confusing because she never, and maybe there's things, of course, there's things we don't know about her, but I'm just a little confused as to why, like, she's like, yeah, I got divorced, but I'm through it and I'm better. She portrayed herself, she advertised herself like that.
Hmm.
And she never really mentioned, like, oh, my ex-husband was a cheater, or, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
why are you so concerned about how Jessica looks? Why are you so concerned about the friend? You know, I mean, the friend is suspect.
The friend part, I'm
That's about
like, you
it's a
had a
valid
point. You
concern.
just didn't argue it right.
Yeah, yeah, Jimmy, you could have made something. I mean, she just didn't do it right. I
She
agree.
didn't articulate herself well. I will say though, with Jimmy, I kind of still think he's very like he has this weird like competitive or just like fear of how they're being perceived or something. Because remember, one of the reasons he brought up why he's breaking up is he was like, just last week or 2 days ago at the pool party, you said Johnny and Amy were the best couple. And that's when she was kind of
Ah,
like, well, yeah, we were over. I just said it twice, like kind of as a joke, because we were overcoming stuff and like getting through it. And I
I
was just
mean,
like, that's a good
yeah.
point. And Johnny and
It
Amy are the
is
best couple. Well, y'all
they
think
are the
y'all
best
are the
couple.
best couple, Jimmy, Chelsea?
Yeah. Well,
And mm,
I feel like oh, go ahead, go ahead.
no, just saying, please be for real.
I feel like he was saying that more to say like you're not proud of us. Like you don't it almost like you don't believe in us. And that I could get why he took it that way, but I don't think that's what she meant.
No, I think she
Literally,
was like
Johnny and
joking.
Amy are like picking flowers, running through fields, completely 100% smitten. Who wouldn't want to be like that in this experiment?
Right? Y'all are
You
having
know?
drunken arguments. But you know
Literally.
what? Go off.
Literally.
But like, let's be
Yeah.
real. Let's be
He like
real.
he liked to bring that up too. He's like, "You got drunk and said I didn't love you." I'm like, "Come on." I thought it was also funny how Jimmy was like kind of painting the thing about the friend. He was like, "So you pretty much exposed my friend, and now any man who's gonna want to be with her." And I was like, "Jimmy, we saw this girl for maybe 2 minutes. I don't know what she looks like. I don't think people will even recognize you in public." So this like like scarlet letter that you feel like is on your
Yeah.
friend now, and also there were two friends, so we don't know which one it was.
I'm like, what fucking society are we now back in where it's like the woman was touched, now no one will want to be with her?
Yeah,
And
like
also, it's like, I can guarantee this. If the friend has a partner, he finds out she slept with Jimmy. If he said, oh, that makes me uncomfortable, she would have respect for the relationship and step back,
100%,
which is what
100%.
Jimmy would never do.
I wonder if Jimmy would do it and he just doesn't do it because she didn't ask him. He's like, he didn't tell me to step back.
Well,
So
that's the
that's
thing.
like
You have
that.
to like hold his hand and be like, okay, so when I
Yeah.
say this makes me uncomfortable, that
Yeah.
means,
I'm uncomfortable.
and you shouldn't what?
Do the thing that makes me uncomfortable.
There you go. So,
I don't know. Is that fair? Is that fair? I mean, the whole having sex with her thing is kind of wild. So,
I think it's fair
when did it happen? Did it
that
happen in
part.
high school?
We need to figure out the details, and then it's dependent on the
Yeah.
details. But I would say, given not just that they're friends, but that they text all the time,
Yeah,
that's the
that's
part where it's
concerning.
like, okay, maybe don't text all the time.
Yeah, and then like she's the person you want your like future wife to meet. That's a little weird,
Yeah.
you know. Well, Brandon left out some key points last week. Granted, I was misinformed. So last week, Brandon told us that
What I say.
Jessica did an interview on the Vial Files, which is another podcast. And Brandon
Correct.
said that Jessica mentioned a couple things about Jimmy on the Vial Files. So
Okay.
me, Magdala, I assumed that Brandon listened to it already. And all Brandon mentioned last week was that Jessica would not be comfortable with the friend, you know, him having like a close female friend. Um, but Jessica said a lot more. I thought Brandon listened to the whole podcast. He just saw a couple clips.
I saw a clip on TikTok and Maggie was like,
Yeah.
Brandon, how do you not watch the whole thing? And I was
I was
like,
so
I
confused.
just didn't go on the video. I just saw a clip when I was scrolling and I mentioned it.
This is why, though. This is why, because when we're talking about the podcast, sometimes he's like, "Oh, I skipped over this," and I'm like, "So did you skip through the Vile Files?" But you just saw a clip, so I was just misinformed.
I only skipped through Johnny and Amy scenes.
That's fine. That's fine.
Everything else I
I
watched.
think the rest of America also skipped it. I don't hear
Yes.
anything about Johnny or Amy. People probably don't
No.
even remember their names. Jessica did have some tea to spill on the Vile Files. I listened to it and
Ooh,
I
what'd
thought
she
that there was
spill?
some interesting information. So she was on 2 episodes, which is annoying. The way they set
Oh
it up
yeah.
is kind of like they have like segments, and I'm like, okay, so I had to listen to 2 episodes. But thankfully, they have those pins in their
Yeah,
episode where
on
you
the
can go to the
YouTube,
point.
yeah, I've noticed. Sometimes
Yeah,
they
so I
don't
listened
though,
to.
and I'm like, I'm not trying to listen to 2 hours of Nick Vile. Can we
Yeah,
please? I'm just trying to hear the
yeah,
one little part.
that I want to hear. So, I thought it was interesting. Jessica basically defended Chelsea in the way that she was like uncomfortable with Jimmy's lifestyle. So we all are thinking like he was only out for an hour and a half. That's not that bad. But apparently, Jimmy in the pods was basically saying, I don't go out. I'm a homebody. I don't really like, I don't really go anywhere, what have you. And Jessica said that she would also have been surprised that he was like going out. So I'm confused because I've only heard of one time of Jimmy going out on the show, but maybe he was going out a lot more.
Maybe that she'll go
Yeah.
into more in the reunion because I think her and
Yeah.
Jimmy have a moment at the reunion where they kind of clash
Yeah.
based
Yeah,
off
it
that
sounds like
sneak
it.
peek.
Yeah.
So I guess, but my thing, I'm just like, if it was the one time for like a birthday, that's
Right.
where I'm
Then
like,
it's not
that
that
wouldn't
deep.
make me think like, oh, you lied. I would be like,
Right.
oh, because when someone says I don't really go out, it's like, okay, you don't really go out, but maybe every now and then you do.
You do. Yeah, like you go
Yeah.
out sometimes, but the majority of the time you don't. Like
Yeah.
that doesn't mean they never go outside, but Jessica was on her side too. So I'm like maybe there's more to it. Maybe he portrayed himself a certain way. Um she did say that physically he wasn't her type. That she really liked his voice. All these girls were smitten, but when they saw Jimmy, they were like, "Oh, that's what you look like."
Interesting.
So I thought that that was interesting. And then she low-key defended Kenneth. And I was like,
Oh,
hold the phone.
what'd she
So
say?
if y'all so let's just remind the people who Kenneth is because he hasn't been here for a while.
Kenneth
Kenneth
was with Brittany,
married or proposed to Brittany and then was in love with his phone, loved his phone more than Brittany.
middle school
They
principal.
middle school principal. She brought up one issue to him and he was like, "Well, I guess we shouldn't get married." And so they cut it off.
Couldn't tell
But
him anything.
yeah. Apparently all of the girls in the pods were like they really thought that Kenneth was sincere, so sincere that they were like kind of afraid to date him because they're like he could never do anything wrong. Like he's so sweet, he's so nice. Like that's how he came off to them. So I was surprised by that. That was the first thing that she said. Granted, I don't know if she's watched the episode so far. And then she basically said that the edit of Kenneth and Brittany didn't show everything. Like they did have time that they spent together. They did have intimate moments, but the show mostly focused on the negative moments. And so she's pretty much like saying that how Kenneth was portrayed is not how he actually is. So I thought that that was
Uh,
interesting. I
I
mean, I
could,
could believe it.
yeah, I could see that because I think, I mean, that happens with everyone. They're gonna show like the juiciest moments and like
Exactly.
whatever supports the end result. So if the end result is
Yeah.
y'all broke up because of this reason, they're gonna show all the moments that show that. They're not
Yeah.
going to show
Yeah.
like they're not going to include all the fluff. So yeah, of
That's
course,
true.
I'm sure there was great moments, but
Yeah.
both things can be true. You can have good
Right.
moments and then you can also have the bad moments.
Right. I was just surprised that there was no like Kevin slander at all. I thought that she would be like, oh yeah, what he did wasn't cool or whatever. She was just like, Kenneth is so nice and only spoke highly of him. And I was like, wow.
I wonder, well, I feel like I don't know. I feel like Brittany might still be good with him too, because I listened to a
Yeah.
little bit of some interview and she seemed to be saying kind of nice things. I didn't listen to the whole thing. I should have, but it was like weeks ago.
I
So
mean,
like,
I wouldn't expect her to slander him. She
yeah.
seems really nice.
So I'm
Like
like,
she'd let it bygones be bygones and let it go.
and I'm sure in the grand scheme of the Jeremys, the Trevors, and like the Jimmy drama, Kenneth being on his phone, she's like, oh, precious Kenneth.
Yeah, yeah.
Although I think there was something else going on, but
Yeah, there's some rumors about Kenneth, but I don't know.
who's to
So we'll
say?
see. We'll see. We'll see. Um, I wanted to ask you for Jimmy and Chelsea at the reunion, what do you want cleared up? What do you want them to like say or address, if anything?
Regardless of whatever they say, I want Chelsea to speak in a different voice than her usual
I
arguing
want
voice.
Chelsea to use a normal inflection and tone
What
when
do you mean? No,
speaking.
no, no. Like then
If she doesn't cry, oh my
no.
gosh, we should bet money. We should play a game and like
Oh,
take
she's gonna
shots for
cry.
how many times people cry,
Oh my
specifically
God.
Chelsea.
She will cry. But
Hmm.
with that being said, she could say anything as long as it's not how she usually argues. I'm like, okay. But I guess cleared up what friend it was. Let us know
They're not gonna do that. They're
because
not
we're
gonna do
still
that.
thinking it's the girl with the dark hair. I still think it. Um, I guess maybe more about the night he went out because it did seem like there was more because it made it seem
Yeah.
like she was crazy and fishing, which she
Yeah.
probably was, but maybe there was some truth to what she was fishing for.
Yeah, there could be. I wouldn't be surprised, honestly. Like that's the downside of these shows is that these people literally sign up and give production the right to tell their story for them. And we really don't hear everything. So
No.
I'm sure that there are other things, you know. I want to know if she's got some past trauma or something that has led her to be so
Yeah.
like on it, you know.
Yeah. What happened in the first marriage? Like, what
Yeah.
was that like?
Like she kind of just when she first spoke about it, she was just like we were young, you know, and we just kind of fell out of love. But I'm like, what really happened? Because the way you act, or maybe you've just had bad dating experiences. That's fine too. Just
Yeah.
keep it a buck and tell us. Or maybe something happened. Maybe, you know, the AD thing, Jimmy complimenting AD or something really made you feel some type of way, you know?
And that's the thing with Chelsea. She actually almost always has a point. Again, she
Yeah.
just can't argue it or handle it
Yeah.
right to where
Right.
she then
Yeah.
makes it something else. And it's like, oh
Exactly.
my God.
Yeah, you have to like calmly like explain yourself and have a productive conversation because when you're crying, screaming, running away, we really didn't have a productive conversation. Get to
No.
a point where you can sit down and calmly talk to somebody about something, especially if it's serious, you
Yeah.
know, without like, you know, blowing it up or have a mediator. Damn, oh no, these two can't talk to each other.
Do something. I
Do
don't
something
know.
else. Do it another way. Throw it all away.
I also want a deep dive into not necessarily her saying she looks like Megan Fox, but in his clear dissatisfaction with the way she looked.
Yeah.
I want her to confront
Yeah.
him about that. And then I want
I want to
Jessica to
know if he was,
chime in.
yeah, I want to know if he was really attracted to her. She does kind of look like Megan Fox though, but she should have portrayed it that way. From the tip of the top of my nose up.
She
I
did
look
say her eyes and hair.
yeah. But
So,
then she was like they were both giggling and she just let it rock and I was like, "Chelsea, you're setting yourself up.
mm,
You are setting yourself up. You have to be specific. I'm not her twin, but
but
I may in the right light look like her occasionally sometimes on the
me too,
weekends.
Chelsea.
We
Uh, but
all look like Megan Fox. But I was just
I think we
curious what you
all look like Megan Fox.
a little bit.
Um, but with that, let's go to the couple of the hour,
AD and Clay.
AD and Clay. This was sad.
This was very sad.
It
There's a
didn't
lot to unpack here.
it didn't start off sad. It actually
It
started
didn't.
off like, oh my gosh, like
Yeah, yeah. We have the girls. They have their bachelor party. The girl, bachelorette, the boys have a bachelor party. They're all like, we made it. Clay's like, Johnny, it's just us two, you know, we made it here. And then we see Clay and AD, they get married first. AD is super excited. She's ready. She's getting ready with her friends, her family. They're all kind of emotional, having a good time, getting dressed together. And then Clay is doing the same, kind of. I mean, we didn't really see a whole lot of people around him, but then he had a big talk with his dad.
Yeah. I will say with the bachelorette parties, I'm like the bachelorette looked fun. Like they got drunk and danced. But the guys, they just like played the cornhole.
Yeah.
Like,
I
what
think
is
they were just
happening?
like out by a fire pit or something. We didn't really see their whole
Yeah.
evening. I think they got hats
It
that
looked
said
very
husband or
lame.
t-shirts.
Yeah. I was like, okay.
Yeah,
Um,
Amy let loose. Amy
she
was
did.
dancing and stuff. I was like,
Okay, Amy,
okay,
go off.
Amy.
Ditch the cowboy hats. But anyways,
Yeah.
but the wedding day, they're getting ready, blah blah blah. And
Hmm.
then what did you think of 80s bridesmaids dress color choice? I liked it.
Yeah, it was nice.
I like
I
the
think
blue.
her maid of honor had a different because the other girls were kind of like metallic teal
Okay,
and
that's what I was
the
wondering. I was like, why is this hers different? I don't
I
like
don't know if it's
that.
because she needed a bigger size and
M-
they didn't have time.
Maybe Love is Blind skimping out. They're just like, no, we can't
For
have
real.
any alterations. Like, really? Okay,
But
Love
the
is
color scheme
Blind.
was cute.
I liked
And the
it.
girls were in like a blush, right? Her
Yeah. Oh,
flower girls.
the Flower Girls? I think so, yeah.
Yeah,
It
the
was
color scheme
nice.
was nice. Hmm.
I liked it, but
What did you think of Clay's talk with his dad before the wedding?
it was weird. Like, what are y'all even talking about?
Yeah, it was weird. I agree.
I'm like, what are we saying? When he was like, I would always beat you at running or whatever it was. And it was just
Yeah.
like, and then one day you beat me. And I remember you were thinking, oh, did dad go easy on me? But really it was just you got better than me. I'm like, what the fuck are we
It was
talking
like a
about?
long way to say. I think the point was like the one who wins the race is the one who puts the work in or something like that. He was trying to make a metaphor or whatever, but yeah, it was very long and outdrawn. And the whole interaction seemed weird because I'm like, Clay, do you talk to him? Like, do you guys talk regularly? Because he was like, thanks for coming. And I'm like, did you not know he was gonna come? like how
Yeah.
close are they? Because we saw his mom. His mom met Clay like a couple of like before this, but like how close is he? He talks about his dad a lot, but like how close are you to your dad? Like
I get the
I don't. It
sense
seems weird.
he like needs his dad's approval or
Hmm.
something like
Yeah,
that. And
I
like
wouldn't
maybe
be
he wants to
surprised.
be closer, but his dad might not be around a lot, which given his past isn't that surprising.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of unspokenness between Clay and his dad. Like, I think Clay had a lot to say or has had a lot to say to his dad for a while and just has never said it. Because he did seem like a little like, I don't know, just kind of like agreeing with whatever his dad was saying. It was like, thanks for coming. Yeah, like kind of just respectable, but like maybe had more to say and didn't say it. I don't know. Their dynamic seemed a little off, a
Yeah, it
little
was
weird.
the dad. I
Some
didn't
people
like
think
the
he's a
dad.
narcissist.
I'm which one, the dad or Clay?
The dad.
I would agree with some people. Um,
Yeah.
there's something because even the
I
conversation
mean,
which
I
we'll
don't
get
think we
to
saw
with the
enough.
mom. The
Yeah.
conversation with the mom was interesting. I love
Yeah.
the mom.
The narcissistic quality that they highlighted was like essentially to give Clay a compliment, he first had to compliment himself. He was like, I've won awards in track and I got this and I almost got that. He was like, and I almost went to the Olympics, I think he said. And
Here's
all the
everything
way to
I
finally
did.
be like, yeah, like he wanted his resume to be known. I don't know if the cameras hyped him up a little bit or not, but it was a little weird.
Maybe he gives me the like type to just talk about himself a lot,
Yeah,
to somehow
yeah.
relate it to something that's not related to him at all.
Right, right, right. Like your
So
son is getting married. Give him some advice about marriage. You know you cheated on your wife. Like you could probably say something not related to track and some solid advice
well,
about
maybe he was mentioning track because he knew Clay was going to run away. I don't know.
Maybe. Maybe. So then they go down the aisle.
And I'm like, I rewatched it because I watched it the first day it came
Hmm.
out, but it was gonna be a few days before we talk about it. So I rewatched it the other day to kind of just like remember and like see if I missed anything. And I was like, wow, Clay seems really hype to get married. I'm like,
He
he's
does.
totally giving the impression he's excited and like he
Yep.
wants to do
Everything he's
this.
saying.
Yes,
Hmm.
he's smiling. He's like, I want to talk about the growth we've been through. And AD's like, talk about it. Talk about it. I'm like,
Speak.
AD, I love
Speak.
you. Speak on it.
Speak
Um,
on it.
and I'm like, okay, like this, if because before this, I think
Hmm.
us and everyone was just like, AD, like, what are you doing? Like, he
Yeah.
doesn't want to get married. Like, he's red
Yeah.
flag. Like, he's basically
Yeah.
every week, like, well, I don't want to cheat on you, but my dad did cheat on my mom. So
Yeah. And like the last episode, he low key told her he wasn't gonna say yes. He's like, I don't know. He's like, the husbands do this. I don't do that. I don't say that stuff. Like, I don't know if I'm ready to get married. And she was like, well, if you say no to me at the altar, it's gonna be a problem. He's like, for real? And I'm like, Clay,
I'm like,
the whole point of this show is to marry
Clay, do
somebody.
you have
What's wrong
even
with
like a
you?
fraction of a clue? Like, what are you talking about right now? Like, what are you saying, Clay?
They literally played this scenario out, and my guy was still surprised. Make it
Right?
make sense.
Well, yeah. And so, like, leading up to it, I think we all were just like, oh my God, AD, what are you doing? But then when she's walking down the aisle and he's saying all the stuff, I'm like, okay. Like, I guess they're
Yeah.
gonna go for it. And you know what? God
Yeah.
bless. I hope they work out. I have been recorded saying that I think they should date more before getting married.
Yeah.
But you know what? To each their own. If they
Hmm.
get married,
To each
whatever.
their own.
So
Hmm.
then he's like saying all this nice stuff, and then he's just like, but with that being said, I don't want to get
Yeah.
married. And even
It
she's
was
like, what the fuck, Clay?
like, what are you doing? Poor AD. The one
Poor
tear. I
AD.
mean, like, everything AD does is so angelic. And the way she was just like slowly crying, but like keeping it together and like still talking to him. And she like patted the tear away. I'm like, my girl, it's just, is this a movie? Is this a movie scene?
She needs to
But
be
she
in
was like,
movies.
it was so confusing. Even the stuff he said to production made it seem like he was going to say yes. But he's like, I don't think it's responsible for me to say yes right now. And she's like, what do you mean? And he like kind of gave an explanation. And she's like, Clay, WTF? And he's like, well, why does the time matter? And she's like, don't do that. She's patting away her tears and she's like, don't do that. Don't. And he's
No.
just like, okay. And I'm like, Clay, are you really gonna argue about this at the altar? But also, like, why
Right?
don't you already know? Why does it matter? Why don't you already know? Maybe because we invited all of our friends and family to come
Maybe
to this
because we're
wedding.
literally at the aisle. I have a wedding dress on. You have a suit. We are about to get married. What are you saying right now, Clay?
I think a percentage of this could also be production. Let's give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe,
I did have that
maybe he,
thought.
yeah, maybe he thought like we have to go down the aisle. I don't know, because some people, I won't even say guys, some people, you tell them stuff and they really just don't hear it. They may hear the first thing you said, but they don't hear the second and third, you know? So maybe he just felt like he did have to go down the aisle. People have, you know, said no at the altar, but like kept the door open. Doesn't make sense here because she literally told you last episode that if you say no, it's a done deal. But
Yeah.
he said no anyway. And so then we have the aftermath of that.
Yeah. I did like how she looked at like her bridesmaids and was just like, we're ready. And then
She
they just
said
walked off.
so, and they're like, "Yes, yes,
Let's go.
when you are."
And she's just
I liked.
crying and
It was so
crying. She
sad.
cried all her makeup off.
She did. Clay's mom gave her a hug before she left the altar, which I thought was sweet. But yeah,
It was.
everybody everyone's crying, AD's crying, and all of her bridesmaids are like pissed. I
One
felt
was
so
just like,
bad for her.
he's just not your person, and we thought he would be, but he played us. And I'm just
Yeah.
like, he didn't
Yeah, they were
play.
like, she's like, Amber, this is not your man. This is just not your man. Because she was like, it's always something. They just never choose me. And I felt that made me sad when she said that. Like, dang, you're literally such an amazing person. You deserve somebody. And I'm sure this feeling sucks right now. The thing that like made me kind of the more sad than anything was her niece, and I don't know what the other little girl, I don't know if they're both her nieces or not, but they were just standing there watching her cry, and the camera just
Hmm.
wanted to show them a couple of times, and I was like, why are they there?
They
Like,
need to be like
why do they have to see
excused.
that? Yeah, like somebody, an adult needs to just like take the girls outside. I'm sure, in the rush of the moment, but it just made me sad that they were also witnessing like this heartbreak, and it's like
Yeah.
not that little kids can't like have the positive, like they only need positive experiences. I just feel like this whole experiment isn't the best example of like relationships and marriages in a healthy way, and so it just
No.
made me sad that these little girls are just standing there watching. I'm like, oh, somebody please step outside.
Somebody
And then
save them.
for real. And then AD finally goes and she's alone for a little bit.
Yeah. And then Clay's parents are kind of comforting him. His mom's just like, you know what? If you don't know, then you shouldn't say yes, which is
Yeah,
true. But
it's
maybe you
true.
could have said it before she walked down the aisle.
Exactly. Like the
That's
whole
the
the whole
thing.
fact that like five couples went into this. There's only two getting married today, Clay. There were opportunities for you to be like, pause. Amber, I really like you, but I don't want to like get married. I don't think I'm ready. And so, he could have definitely picked a better time. Um, and then he goes and oh well, what happened? He goes and he speaks to her, and it's pretty much just like, I hate seeing you cry. Like, why are you upset? And it's again like, my guy, somebody fill him in because AD
Somebody
doesn't need to be doing it.
somebody let Clay know. He doesn't know for some reason. Let him know. It's just
Can
like
someone explain?
right, and he's just like saying like, I hate seeing you like this, but like I don't understand. Like this isn't me leaving you. Like you're gonna have to run away from
Yeah,
me. Like da 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 da. And he's like, I feel like I've learned so much through this and all that. And she makes like a point to be like, it just sucks that I had to be the sacrifice for you to learn something. And I'm like,
yeah,
that's exactly right, AD. You gotta
it
trust.
is exactly right.
And she's just basically like,
It
we can't
sucks.
be together. Like you gotta go. And he's like, but I don't want to
Yeah,
go. And she's like, but you
yeah,
need to. And then he walks away and then
yeah.
she cries more. And it's
I
just
mean, I feel like she
depressing.
felt conflicted. She still hugged him and stuff, so I don't know if she was on the fence maybe too. But yeah, from what she's saying, she's like, no, leave. And I mean, like, I kind of felt for Clay a little bit 2% when he was like, I want to go to therapy. Like, I want to make this work. Like, I have some things to work through, which is valid. You've been
Hmm.
told us that this whole experience and your mom getting cheated on by your dad and you going, traumatized you. We get it. I just don't know why you couldn't have
Yeah.
articulated this 2 weeks ago, you know?
Right. There was plenty of opportunity to, instead of skirting around it,
Yeah,
be like, I don't want to get married.
exactly. And she's just like, come on, are you serious? Like, you just wasted my time. And that's how she was feeling.
Yeah.
And then Clay later is like, I feel stupid, like I feel like dumb. And it's like, you thought this was gonna be good? Like, I don't get
What
him.
I want to be like, what did you really think was going to happen?
Yeah, you thought she'd be like, okay, that's fine.
Especially when she told you what was going to happen. What then made you
Exactly.
think something else would happen?
Exactly. Some people really just don't listen.
No, because I told you before, he doesn't listen. He just does like the salesman. Yeah. Like, yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah.
He doesn't listen. He doesn't internalize.
He doesn't. So the timing with Clay, I'm upset about. But everything else kind of came to surface when his mom and dad are speaking to each
Oh,
other. I was
yes.
like, I think this is a lot deeper than we knew. I think it's a lot deeper than his dad just took him sometimes. Like, I think it's a lot deeper to Clay.
Yeah, because I think the mom was making the point, like, which is valid as far as his example he saw of marriage was not good because he saw you cheat
Yeah.
on me for 20 years and he would go sometimes. And she even mentioned, I'm learning stuff that I didn't know. And I think she's alluding to the fact that he was brought sometimes. And
Yeah,
he's
he
like,
didn't know that. Or
you
she didn't
gave
know
him
that.
this image of a husband
Yep.
that like warped it, which
Yeah.
makes sense. But then it's also, I think it was some girl, she, sometimes she shows up on my YouTube and my TikTok. I think it's two people from Love is Blind. They have a podcast like Beyond the Pods or something.
Oh, okay.
And she said something like, I think, I don't know her name, but she like, I think she broke up with the guy Shake or what was his name?
Oh, Shake?
Shake. I think it
He
is her
was
name Deep
he
T?
was a POS.
Yeah.
Let me find out who married Shake. Go ahead, keep
I
talking.
think
I'll
her
find
name
it.
was Deep T. I never watched the season, but I remember I had saw stuff about it and that she
He
looked
was a,
familiar.
he was not a nice guy.
But she was basically saying just like, cheating's not genetic. Like, if you don't want
Mm-hmm.
to cheat, just don't. Because I
Yeah.
could also see the apprehension to getting married, but when it was like the cheating stuff, that's where I was just like, okay, but like, that was bad what he did. So there, you shouldn't cheat. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Her name was Deep D.
Okay. Yeah, she shows up.
Um,
I think I tried watching once, but it was a little boring. But they do a
yeah.
podcast, her and some girl.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think yeah, I mean, I don't think it can't be that simple. I think it really but I was listening again today, Brandon. I think there's more to it. But essentially Clay is basically saying like I saw my mom cheat, whatever. And then he
Dad.
dad cheat, sorry. And then
Mom would never.
earlier in
She's
the
an
day,
angel.
right? I was watching before he went down the aisle, and he was pretty much saying, like, it's hard to admit that, like, you may not be the best person ever. And so he was pretty much like saying that about himself. Like, it's hard to admit that, like, you may not have good qualities. And so I'm like, were you also a cheater? There has to be more to it.
Well,
Because
I
I
think
really
he
feel like Clay has
was.
cheated before. Yeah. And he
I
didn't really
think
outright
so.
say that.
Hmm.
And so maybe that's why like he's just afraid to like make this really important commitment and be just like his dad and mess shit up like his dad because he saw that up close what it does to, what it did to his mom, what it did to him being his dad's son. So maybe that's it. I think that there's more to Clay's insecurity than what he's
Oh
actually
yeah.
saying. But the conversation that their parents had, I thought was amazing because again, Clay has some stuff that he needs to tell his dad that he hasn't. And so the mom is basically like, you messed him up.
You
Like
did this.
we don't want to mess up our kids, but like there are things that you have done that have hurt him. And to solve that, you need to like talk to him about it. And there's things that I'm learning just now. And the dad like wipes his eye and he's like, yeah, 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 you're right. Break the cycle, break the cycle. And I'm like, not you with your words and phrases. Like he
I
sums up
can't.
his life in Hallmark cards.
That's what people who won't break cycles say.
Yeah,
Anyone who's
yeah.
not going to break a cycle will say, we just need to break the cycle.
Break the cycle, break the cycle. So it's like it looked like he heard her for a second, and then he said something generic, and I was like, no, you didn't. And he's like, yeah, yeah, so he can find somebody good like his mom, like
That's
I
how I
did.
knew he was full of shit when he said that.
Yeah,
And then she
I
hit
think he
right
was.
back and was just like, but you had me and you weren't good to me.
You
And
weren't
I'm
good to
like,
me, and he
there you
was like,
go.
and he didn't wipe his eye this time. He was just like, yeah, yeah. And so I don't know if I think there's a mixture of things going on. I love Clay's mom. I love that she is like being direct, telling this man what's up. Like you hurt our son, and that is not okay. And I think part of what she's saying too is, had I known, this would have been different because like
Yeah.
she's just learning now too. Maybe she could have helped Clay in some way through that. But this whole like being a secret keeper thing on a kid, that's a lot mentally. Like to hold an
Yeah.
adult secret from another person you love, like that's crazy. Clay should not be your confidant. He should not be like in that position to do that for you. That's really messed up?
Yeah. And it's just like there's a weird dynamic with the dad because it's just some
Yeah.
type of and it's just like where I got kind of also the like seeking approval was like when it was like afterwards and the dad was just like, hey, you do the best you can, and was just like smiling or whatever. And then
Yeah.
Clay was like, oh yeah, you're right. And he was just kind of smiling. And it
Yeah.
was just like it was a dynamic. And I was just like, I think that does maybe a part of him keeping the secret of the dad cheating was trying to gain his approval and like
Yeah.
maybe in a weird way
Yeah.
he like saw him bringing him to that as something. I don't know. That's
I
odd that
don't
he would
know.
bring him. Like that's so weird.
It's that's so
That's
bizarre
like
and it's really
diabolical.
messed up. It is. Like, yo, I really feel like some people do not think things through.
Mhm.
Clay should not be at his big age and y'all have not talked about it. I mean, look, I also feel like this is probably like other things. Like in the Black community, I feel like you really don't talk about things. You're not going to therapy. You're not like working and addressing like familial trauma. It's either like we
Mhm.
never talked about it or I don't talk to you.
Oh.
You know what I mean? There's like two extremes, you know? And like the mom was kind of saying that like you have some things to bring up. And I feel like the dad was probably kind of embarrassed. Like, there's cameras here. You see them. We're mic'd up, girl. Like, they can
Oh
hear
yeah.
us, you know? And so I'm sure the dad was like probably embarrassed a little bit. Like, oh, I didn't know you guys were talking about infidelity. Meanwhile, Clay brought that up on day one.
He
Like,
did.
first conversation.
First conversation. Yeah, I saw my dad cheat a bunch of times. I was just
Right.
like, well,
His
damn.
dad just didn't exactly. His dad just didn't know he was part of the storyline. So they have some things that they really need to address. And I get that Clay has some things that he needs to work through. That's 100% valid. And when I saw this dynamic between the parents, I was like, dang, this stuff is a lot deeper than, oh, my dad used to cheat. Like, it really has affected him in a lot of ways. So that's where I could like sympathize with Clay. I just don't
Yeah.
know why he went through the whole wedding and wasted everybody's time.
Yeah, and acted like he was gonna say yes the whole time. I was like, that
He was
was
like, yes,
he
AD, I
was
love
just
you so
like,
much.
oh, look
Yes.
at you, body. Like all
Yes,
this.
girl,
I'm
you look
like,
good.
oh my gosh.
People were upset by the body comment.
Someone I saw said that they talk to each other like Instagram captions or Instagram comments. And I'm like, they totally do.
Yeah, because even AD was like, I love how we could just, like be whatever, like with each other. And I'm like, what does
Not
that
us getting
mean?
married.
Not me saying I do.
Ooh, not me in this dress. It's okay though.
Oh
I'm glad.
gosh.
I'm kind of glad because I'm like, you know what, AD, at your actual wedding, you'll have a better dress and it will
Yeah.
be fine. Not that
Yeah.
this dress was bad, but we had talked about it was a little plain and kind of
Yeah, it
just
was a
like, eh.
little simple. She could be in a
But she
lot
looked good.
better.
She looks good in anything. But
Yeah, but that's
that was
them.
pretty much the end of the finale. Very
Yeah.
bittersweet note with the Johnny and Amy like, whoa, we're married to like Aiden
Yeah,
and
like they
Clay.
yeah, it's like they dump AD and Clay on us, depression, family trauma, and they're like, "Well, let's go see Johnny and Amy." And I'm like, "Just turn the TV off. We know y'all are gonna say yes." They had a great time. They had a beautiful wedding.
Right. But next
Uh,
week's the reunion and we
no,
saw the
next
little
week is the
teaser. It
reunion.
was just a minute long teaser. But it looks like it's
Yeah.
gonna be pretty good.
I'm excited. I'm sad that, well, I wanted to say it looks like AD and Clay are together
Oh
from what we
yeah.
see on the streets.
Hmm.
According to the streets. So there was like
The
this
streets.
video. I think it was on Instagram, maybe TikTok. It was like AD. I don't know if they were watching the Super Bowl or if they were watching Lowe's Vine. I don't know what they were watching. Her and her family are in front of the TV. They're all watching something and she looks super happy. And Clay is recording, but we only see this because his reflection is in a mirror in the corner.
Yeah.
So like he was trying not to be in it, but like was in it and probably didn't notice.
Yeah. Which I guess makes sense also because from the reunion preview, he says, oh, I made a mistake. She's the love of my life and
Yeah.
all this. So I'm like,
So
I guess. But you know what? Look, I'll say this. We love AD and we just want AD to love herself as much as we love her.
yep.
But, to each their own. You know
Yeah.
what? I've been saying they needed to just date. So, you know what?
They're low key taking our advice. They just went the long way about it. And like,
Yes.
yeah. I mean, like, I'm not mad at them staying together. I think some people don't agree, but I don't think it's that. I think they
I'm
did
like,
have a genuine
whatever.
connection. He was just wasn't ready, and for some reason, he thought it was okay to have a fake wedding
Yeah. For some reason,
and
he
waste
thought that.
everybody's time.
But hey, we'll see.
Hey,
Look, I think the positive is they're not married, so now they're just dating. So it's like it's
Yeah.
not like they're tied to each other, so they can easily break up.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we
And who
shall
knows? They
see.
may not be together, so we'll see.
Yeah,
But so from the preview, the other thing I wasn't happy about is that Laura is virtual. And I'm like,
I
Laura,
know.
you're literally the main woman on this cast to not sugarcoat a thing. You're amazing live in 4K. Why are you virtual? Because I feel like virtual conversations,
It won't hit
like
the
they're
same.
good. It doesn't hit the same exactly. So I'm just bummed that she's not gonna be there. I wanted to see maybe we could see like, some Bad Girls Club inspiration.
Well,
Some people
Sarah
running
Ann
across the
looking like a
stage.
toddler's in tiara with her hair and her pink dress, being like, I'm the pick me, you're the pick me. And it's like, how? How?
The
And
fact
Laura's
that
just like, you
Sarah
are a
Ann
clown.
Literally, the fact that Sarah Ann feels like she's right, like I want to be that Delulu. Like, come on, girl.
Sarah Ann, the fact that you're this bold, holding the hand of a man in a Hawaiian shirt at
On
like
a nice suit.
on a nice
Oh
suit at like
gosh.
30 something years old, who was engaged previously 2 weeks before, cheated on his new fiance with you. You think he's not going to cheat on you? And now his
Yeah,
other ex is coming forward saying some crazy shit about him. I'm not too familiar with the
yeah.
details, but
Oh
we'll catch up
gosh.
with it at some point. It's just too
Yeah,
much
so I'm
tea. This
curious to
Love is
see.
Blind is just too much extra tea. I'm like, I can't.
There
But
really is. But I'm glad the show is actually addressing it because they asked Trevor, like, Trevor, what's up, Trevor? What's going
oh,
on?
Trevor's
Also,
showing up.
Trevor looked terrible. And I want receipts. If he's gonna say something or deny something, then I want actual evidence on screen. We need to maybe someone will pull up with a binder. Who knows? But I want to see receipts of
Monique will
this
show
stuff.
up with a binder.
She'll be like, here, Laura, borrow my binder.
I have a tab
Print
for him.
everything. Print
There
it
you go.
all.
Uh,
Photocopy everything. But he looks so bad. I was like, what is Trevor wearing? Trevor
yeah.
looks like he's on his way to Sunday school. Like, other than that, though, I'm, I'm just excited in general. Brandon and I are gonna watch it together
We
Wednesday,
are.
9 p.m. Be there or be square. You're gonna miss it. Um, Fair warning, Brandon. In the past, Love is Blind has had an issue with timeliness, which is really insane to me. Like, I've never seen a show say something's gonna happen at a certain time and it doesn't. But like one year they were like an hour late. So I'm really
Jesus.
interested.
Hopefully
Yeah,
that
I
doesn't
wonder if it's
happen. My
actually gonna
God.
happen. Just bring some coffee. We'll be okay.
We'll be all right.
We'll
Um,
watch it together.
yes. But with that being said, I think that's it for today's episode.
That is all for today's episode. Thanks for
Yes.
listening, y'all.
Thanks, y'all. Would you please be so kind as to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify?
Yeah.
Give us
Leave us
five
a review.
stars. Write us a
Mhm.
review. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at the Shade of It All. Come on now. Don't you want to see
Yes.
these
Click the
faces?
button. Of
Uh,
course you do. We're
yes.
beautiful.
And then you can follow us on Instagram and TikTok at the Shade of It All podcast. TikTok is fun. It has a bunch of different clips. It has our thoughts on all the reunion looks, well, the ones that mattered,
Mm-hmm.
and like a bunch of other stuff. So you need to follow us on
Yeah.
there.
We're making some videos in addition to the podcast videos, so
We
keep an eye out
are.
for that on TikTok.
And we'll
Our
probably,
Instagram's a little dry. Not sure what to do with it yet. She's
Maggie
she's a
hasn't
work in
posted
progress.
anything. She's in charge of the Instagram.
The problem is that like I don't know what to do because I don't think our videos would necessarily be great for a reel. So I'm like trying to think of some organic posts and I'm kind of a perfectionist. So if I don't love the idea, I'm not gonna do it. So give me time to work on our Instagram. It's coming together.
In construction, but it's all good. It exists. Follow it.
It exists. Follow it.
But with that being said, thanks y'all. Thanks y'all. Thank y'all so much for listening, and we'll talk to you next week. Bye.